March 2023, new Singapore budget, higher interest rate, potential economic slowdown, and inflation. What is happening? Hi everyone, my name is KC from HomeQuartersSG Singapore property market update for March 2023. Another cold and wet month of March. Let's dive straight in. Alright, in general news, Singapore property market brace for surging Chinese demand, immigration interest despite the additional 30% on foreigners, Singapore property attractiveness as a safe haven, and the Chinese preference for real estate as a store of wealth is expected to drive demand as the Chinese market reopen. If you're keen to upgrade whether or not it's HDB to condo, condo to landed, or even HDB to a bigger HDB, email us upgrader, the subject line upgrader to hello@homequarters.com.sg. We have a free resource for you. It's a calculator to see if you're eligible to do that today. Singapore due to lead price growth in prime residential markets. Even though both may still be subjected to higher interest rate and global economic headwind, both our prime residential market is projected to grow 6 to 7.9%. Growth in Singapore can be attributed to low supply as well as interest from China now that its economy has reopened. Buyer stamp duty for property purchase to go up for higher value residential property. For more information about this, we have made a separate video about this in depth. The link can be found in the description or over here on YouTube. MAS could tighten monetary policy in April after sticky inflation data in December. Economists, core inflation in particular, which exclude transportation and housing, has remained stubbornly high. The projection for 2023 is 4 to 4.2% for core inflation and 5 to 6% for headline inflation. Most developers do not expect prices of new launch to rise, poll, and developers turn conservative in pricing approach to residential projects, poll, as buyer sentiment softened in the face of global economic challenges, in particular concern of layoff and rising inflation and interest rate were identified as the most significant risk factor. HomeQuarters thinks that foreign demand for Singapore real estate is coming back. Traditionally, Singapore real estate is often seen as a great way to wealth preservation for people around the world. This will definitely drive the price up in the medium to long term. Being put side by side with the Dubai property market as the leader of price growth in prime residential market will definitely give confidence to investors. With MAS allowing the exchange rate to increase as a means of tightening monetary policy, this comes in as great news for foreign investors as well to invest now rather than later. Great news if you are heading out of the country for work or vacation as well. A potential opportunity might be the new launches if developers are turning conservative in their pricing approach. Text or call HomeQuarters for a session to identify how to capitalize on this opportunity right now. Alright, next let's talk about the HDB segment. Price for HDB resale flat up for the 31st straight month, and HDB resale price accelerate in January as $1 million deal surged by 42%. SRX99.co, signaling that demand for resale HDB flat has recovered from the effect of the September cooling measure. The number of $1 million transactions in Jan will also back up to even higher than that before the introduction of the cooling measures. Higher grant for first-time HDB resale flat buyers. Extra BTO ballot for some. Measures the government hope will support the housing aspiration of young Singaporeans. First-timer families prepared to buy resale HDB flat will now get some help to defray the high cost from the previous grant of up to $160,000 to now up to $190,000. Again, for more information about this, we have made a separate video about this. The link can be found in the description or over here on the YouTube. Gems await in HDB resale market, particularly older 5-room resale. HDB flat with at least 70 years on the lease. While this type of flat may be further from town, they are usually good size and with 70 years left, still offering the option to be resold later. HomeQuarters thinks that the higher housing grant might shift the demand towards the HDB resale segment. Analysts have predicted that demand is expected to be increased towards the smaller resale HDB unit, and the price of resale HDB flat are also projected to rise 8 to 10% with the property prices inflation possibly even spilling over to the private housing segment. Demand for own state HDB segment still remain really strong. Therefore, for upgraders looking to sell the HDB and upgrade to a private condominium, this is definitely great news with the increased demand. Speak to us at HomeQuarters to know more about how to project and upgrade safely and profitably. Alright, next we talk about the private property segment. Resale EC gaining popularity due to their affordability. As buyers become more price sensitive under the pressure of a high interest rate and rising macroeconomic uncertainty, high prices in the new home segment brought on by high post-pandemic demand and slow supply for the lack of new launches have also brought EC back in favor. Mass market condo demand and prices supported by firm fundamental. Amidst rising resale HDB prices and medium household income. Furthermore, condo rentals have also seen impressive rises, rising even more than the condo sales price index. New private home sale rebound in January after previous month's dip, supported in part by demand from Chinese buyers and the launch of Seneca residents. January's numbers are a reflection of continued pent-up demand, particularly in the suburb, and low supply. And the picture is expected to continue to be rosy despite the higher stamp duty announced mid-February, which overseas buyers take it as a transaction cost and the cost of owning property in a safe haven. Landed home, a grounded investment in high-rise Singapore. Especially with increased affluence and land scarcity in Singapore, during the pandemic, landed property prices rose 25% versus the 22% for condo and 21% for all non-landed residents. Restrictions imposed during the pandemic compelled many to live, work and play in a single location, with many high net worth or ultra high net worth realizing the benefit of having their own private indoor and outdoor area. This led to some of the highest annual transaction volume and value for landed property in 2021. However, 2022 saw landed home transaction volume shrink and sale plunge 45% under pressure from recession fears, growing inflation and interest rate. 2023 looks to be more of the same, with the added factors of rising construction costs and buyer stamp duty, as well as a lack of replacement home for sellers as landed inventory continue to be limited. Another year of pain for tenants, with 10 to 15% higher condo rent in 2023 expected for rising taxes and interest rate. Demands is expected to stay strong in 2023 with continued active hiring, tight supply, hybrid work arrangement, return of foreign students, and the proliferation of co-living operators. HomeQuarters thinks that resale ACC, with their relative larger living space, have proved most popular in the area where they are most flat, reaching minimum occupation period. Demand is likely to remain healthy, with the buyers spilling over from the condo segment, looking for more affordable home, and HDB upgraders selling their flat at the end of their M.O.P. For the condominium segment, the high rental of the segment are also proving very attractive for investors looking for high rental yield. Mass market suburb condo are a huge draw for HDB upgraders, but we can expect the demand in the sector to be satisfied by the 30 to 40 private housing development expected to be launched this year. With so many to choose from, talk to us today about which one to pick with the highest potential for profit and growth. Then from the landed segment, there might be a silver opportunity if you're able to pick the right one amidst the tight supply right now. Alright, so that's it for March 2023 Singapore Property Update. If you are keen to work with Home Quarters to help you systematically expose your unit for sale or to systematically purchase your dream home or profitable investment, text us at 8809-2889 or head over to homequarters.com.sg. My name is KC from HomeQuarters. Subscribe, follow and like us on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook at HomeQuartersSG. And remember, call HomeQuarters and start packing.